not again. I'm in love. Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome to my shop. Now I've been working on this bench for a while and it is finally done and I'm really happy with it. If you want to see the entire build video series, I'll leave a link to that in the cards. Also, if you want to look at the plans, I have those now up on my website and you can go find them there. If you'd like to see information on that, I'll leave it down below. Now, in the last few videos, I'm working on the vices here. Now, I made a traditional wooden vise over here from Lake Erie that I am in love with. If you've ever worked with a traditional wooden screw, you've got to try it. They're just so much fun. There's something passionate about it that's enjoyable. But today I have a different vise here, and this is a little bit more of a modern design, and it comes from a company called Hovarter Custom Vises. And the different thing about this is rather than turning this handle, I'm just going to grab it and pull it. And it slides in and out. So at any moment, I can very quickly, easily slide it in and out to a point and then crank it down. And with the X brace on the bottom, this thing is so fast, so smooth, so easy, and a lot of fun to play with. And it's kind of a cool new design. And I want to show people how you can put this together. Also in this video, I'm going to be doing some butterfly keys and dovetail keys, or bow tie keys. I guess there's a bunch of different things you can call them. But let's jump into this and take a look. Just as I did with the other vise, this is made of cherry from a friend of mine named David. Really love how this came out. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on dimensioning this as I did on the last, as it's basically the same thing of flatten it out, cut it to length, cut it to width. But yeah, it's still a lot of fun to play with. It. Cherry is a beautiful wood and is very enjoyable, especially for hand tools. It just works very well. So after spending the time to cut it to length, cut it to width, and flatten it out, we can actually do some of the work on the shape. I do want to have the live edges on this just as I did on the last, so I'm going to use a draw shave to clean them up, and then plane down the angle to keep it so that the two look very similar to each other. And planing cherry down is absolutely fun. You get the really smooth, clean curls out of it. Just enjoyable. Now I need to drill holes through this for the shaft, and I don't have auger bits large enough, so I'm going to be using a hole saw. And I'm using a series of them here as the shaft going through is 1 1/8, but then I need to have a recess in there for a collet, so I drill out the collet size. I don't remember what that was exactly, but it's a little bit larger, and I take that down about 1/2 inch. That allows me to come in with a chisel and knock out the difference between the two, so that I have this recessed ring where the collet can clamp onto the shaft and still be recessed into the chop. Now I have all of the plans for the Hovarter custom vise. You can get those online and they come with your kit, so I'm not going to go into a huge detail and actual measurements of how to install this. If you want to see that, you can find that online. I'll leave a link below. But basically this is going to be 2 troughs that go lengthwise in here for the X brace to fit into. Each one is at a slightly different depth. And I started off treating them basically like mortises and chopping from one end to the other, but then I realized that this was going to be neither fun nor fast, and I really want things to be fun, so I'm going to switch over to using a router plane. Router plane might take a little bit more time, but it is a lot more fun. And I basically just take it down a little bit at a time. I'll cut out a pass and then set the depth a little bit deeper, and then cut out another pass and set the depth a little bit deeper, and keep on going until I'm down to depth. It took me about 20 minutes per groove, but it was well worth it and a lot of fun. As you can see, the curls here are just enjoyable. It ends up being about I think it was 7/8 deep on one side, and the other side was 1.5 inches or something along that line. I don't remember exactly. But the curls make this so worth it. Every single pass, you end up with these beautiful, perfectly fitting curls that spiral out. And okay, I'm in love. Sorry. Let's keep on with this. I'm going to need to drill a hole through the leg as well. This allows the shaft to continue through the leg. And so just as I did with the chop, I'm going to use a hole saw to cut through that. And I'll cut in a ways and then knock out the block with a chisel, and then continue cutting until I get all the way through. Now let's actually do some of the work on the leg, but to do that, let's lay it down and make it a little bit easier to get at. This thing is heavy. Who in their right mind would make a bench this heavy? Now one of the things I have to do is drill a hole to connect the top end of both halves of the X brace into the leg and chop. And Hovarter supplies this right angle jig so that you can drill a perfectly straight hole through the leg. And it's really kind of a cool setup. I'm very happy that he offers those as well. But I can drill it out with a brace, and here you can see I have to use the ratcheting feature so that I can not run into the bench with my hand every time. And just as before I did on the chop, I need to cut out those same 2 grooves on the leg. And it takes about another 20 minutes or so to work down through it. But again, it is a joy to do, and I really cannot express how much fun this really was. I almost was sad when I got to depth. Just seeing all of these curls come out of there, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Now that we have that cut out, we can attach the X brace, or in this case, just test it. I have a bolt that is approximately the right size, because I don't want to put the pin through there yet. And I can put it in there and make sure that everything works, and I don't need to move anything out. Then we can stand the bench back up and continue on with the work. And man, that thing is heavy. Every time. Now I'm going to work on the final finishing touches that I need before actually calling this vise finished. And a spoke shave is an enjoyable tool to use, just to let me clean up this leftover bark a little bit. And then we can plane everything down and bring it out nice. Cherry just provides these curls that are fantastic. Now, there is a big crack running down the face of this, and I want to stabilize that with a couple bow tie keys. And I have this holly that was also given to me by David, the same guy who gave me the chops. And the holly, I love how white it stays, and it's a fairly hard wood, a lot like maple, but works fairly easily. I can draw out the shape I want, and I'm just going for an organic shape. I did not draw anything specific or make the sizes. As a matter of fact, I left them unbalanced so that one side was always bigger than the other. And then for a simple application, I'm just going to put on carpet tape or double-sided tape and apply it down. Now, I went through all these steps in a separate video. I'll leave a link to that down below. Bow ties are fairly easy once you think them through and spend some time on it. But the nice thing about this double-sided tape method is I can very easily transfer the mark and actually cut into the wood just slightly. And it will leave me with this perfect mark all the way around that is the exact size of the bow tie. Now with those marks in place, I can bore out most of the waist. I'm going to use 2 different size auger bits, and I'll put these flag tapes on them so that I'm going down to the right depth. I want these bow ties to go down just about as far as possible, but stand out about an 1/8 inch to a 1/16 inch so they don't go down all the way. But with most of the waist removed with the auger, I can come into the chisel and hack out most everything else. I'm staying away from those lines. I don't want to get anywhere near the lines until right at the end. And once I've gotten rid of most of the waste, then I'll go right back to that line and give myself a really nice clean chop all the way down at 90 degrees. And once I know it fits and kind of played with it a bit, can add some glue and drive it down into place. And you've got to love it when the tight fit just slides down in. And it goes right down to depth. Yeah, I'm happy. All 3 bow ties in, and we let them dry up a little bit, and we can come back and plane them down nice and flush. You can see I have the plane skewed at about a 45-degree angle, and this 45-degree angle is both to the grain of the chop and the bow tie, and that way I'm not getting as many cross-grain marks. The rest of this crack I just decided to fill with epoxy. The epoxy doesn't hold it together as much as it does just look good. I left it clear to just kind of make it look like it was filled with glass, and I really like how that came out. The easiest way I find to clean up epoxy is with a card scraper. Number one, it works very well. It's very quick. It gives it a nice clean surface afterwards. But number two, these curls are just fantastic. I love epoxy curls. They're light, they're fluffy, they're wispy, and leaves you with a good surface. My supervisor comes over to check on me and make sure everything's running correctly, gives me a few tips, and yeah, I do things to his liking, and also put a chamfer on the front edge. I am going to be putting carving on this one as well, the same carving that I put on the other one, just to make the 2 vices match. And I am actually going to be putting the carving through the bow tie, so it actually chops off a little bit of the corner of the bow tie. Just like how it grounds it and makes it fit well. A fairly simple process. The carving really only took me about 5 minutes per corner, and it was done. The last thing to do is fit all the hardware and get it ready for finish. There are these slides provided with the kit that the cross brace then slides on as it goes in and out, and they get applied to both the inside of the chop and the leg. And then a pin goes through both the leg and another one through the chop, and this pin is what holds the top of the X brace in place. It goes through the chop into the X brace and then into the other side. And once it's in, it basically becomes the hinge point for the X brace. Now for the main screw, or shaft in this case, because it's a smooth connection shaft as opposed to a screw. And this is where all the magic happens. You can see the clutch on the back, and that just gets mounted to the back of the leg with a couple screws, and then this collet gets recessed into the leg, and it also gets mounted to the leg, just providing a little more support. Then we can slide the chop on and attach the handle and make sure that everything is working. And at this moment I get to actually play with it. And this is the magic of the Hovarter kit. If you've never seen this before, it is, well, it's a little bit different. So we put the handle on, and I can show you how this sucker works. Look, it just slides in and out. No turning it every time. It just slides to the point, and you crank it down, and it connects. And then you back it out, slide to the next size, and you can adjust size just like that without having to spend anything, without having to turn your time rotating it. Just amazingly fast and incredibly strong, and this is even before I put the leather on it. Really, really happy with how that thing works really well. Speaking of leather, I apply DAP contact adhesive to the leather. I put it on really nice and thick because the leather soaks it up. I want it to soak into the leather a good ways, but then become tacky. I'll put it also on the chop, and then I apply it to just the chop. I've had several people ask me why I don't apply it to the chop and the face of the bench. I like the front of the face of the bench to be perfectly smooth all the way from one end to the other, and so I don't put any leather on the one side. I really haven't had any issue with it, and I like the way it works. And now on to the magic moment. Boiled linseed oil and cherry go almost as well as boiled linseed oil and white oak. This just brings out the color. Wow, I love the color on this cherry, the way it soaks into the deeper portions of the carving. Yeah, I'm in love. This is homemade boiled linseed oil. Actually, it was made by a friend of mine, and I do have several videos on how to make your own, and so it can be natural, perfectly safe to put on with your hands, and is fantastic, fantastic wood finish, one of my all-time favorites. So now we can actually attach everything in, connect the X brace, and with the pieces there, we can just put that screw through the connection point, slide the chop on, and then put on the handle and have some fun. And I am, oh yes, I'm in love. This is just the best finishing touch I could think of to this bench. I really love how it came out. It is, yeah, I'm in love with this bench. So I hope you like this build. This is a lot of fun, and just it's something I could play with all day long. It's enjoyable, and it's fast, and it's very, very functional. It has an immense amount of pull on it. So whether or not you like a traditional screw or a more modern, fun thing, I'll leave that up to you. If you'd like to see the plans, I have those up on my website. And I do want to say an incredible thank you to the patrons on Patreon. You guys really are the reason why I can keep putting out videos like this. If it wasn't for you, this channel wouldn't be here today. If you'd like to find out more about that, you can do so right down here. Also, if you'd like to subscribe or see some more behind the scenes footage, you can do that as well. That's about it. And until next time, have a wonderful day.